Ready to flip the script on understanding the neurodivergent brain? Welcome to Mrs. C and Me. Start here, understanding ADHD from the inside out. We're diving deep into the science and the soul of the ADHD experience. It's time to drop our masks and step off of the sidelines and into the light, because you and your child were always meant to shine. So I'm doing this as a little, testing, as I'm about to try something a little out of my comfort zone. Whether I share this or not is irrelevant. What I'm basically doing, if you know me, for the past couple of years, I have felt the need or the urge to share my story. And I've never been really sure what that means. What does that look like? How does that work in this crazy world of social media and people selling things left, right, and center? How does one share what they have to share because people tell them it's valuable and special, and you're not even really sure where to start? I love to write, and any of you that have watched me know how much I love to write. But in this day and age with ChatGPT, other than maybe writing my book, which I'm working on, I have two, one for children and one for adults. I'm starting to see that my weekly posts can be looked at as maybe written through ChatGPT or other AI platforms, which makes it a little more difficult sometimes to write. So I'm trying to find a way, though, to continue this work, because it does light me up inside, and it is a burning desire that never really goes away. Even when I try to avoid it, it's always there. And I have always sort of thought of this as God's voice, God's whisper, God's nudge. And the only way it goes away is by diving in and doing what you're supposed to do, and then seeing where it leads. So I'm going to dive in today to my first audio course. I want to start with basically how I start in my counseling office, which often goes into two directions. So maybe I will just start there, where, when a child is sent to my counseling office, to discuss the possibilities maybe of neurodivergence, or for teachers who are struggling to regulate that student or to understand that student, to motivate that student, all sorts of things. It's not always behavior. Sometimes it's social, sometimes it's massive dysregulation, sometimes it's learning disabilities, sometimes it's anxiety. Like, you never know what's going to come into your office. But when neurodivergence is suspected, basically I have come to the realization that these conversations go in three ways. When you first sit down to discuss these things with parents, it can be difficult. It's never easy to hear that our children might be different or disabled for some. And the idea of a label is very scary for some parents. Well, I understand that. I also see the other side, the side of the children who do not get support, do not have understanding for how their brain or nervous system is built, and the lifelong effects that has. So the first thing that usually happens when I sit down with parents is I get what I like to call the boomer or late Gen Xer response, which is, oh, that ADHD, what is that? That's bullshit, that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that stuff. That's just bullshit. Okay, you do get that. And I have a certain approach with that as well. At the end of the day, the parents do make the decisions that are best for their children. And so I try to respect everybody's decision and the way that they move forward. But I always do try to keep the child at the forefront of our work. The second one you will get is a family that has never really heard of it or acknowledged it or realized that it could be something that runs in their family. These are always interesting conversations because there is a look of surprise. There is maybe even some doubt about what we're observing and whether or not this would be some kind of medical condition. But the nice thing about these people is they're usually open to information, and they're open to the process and maybe checking things out and seeing if it explains anything. I love these conversations. They usually end up being, me and the parents working together with the teacher to keep an eye on the symptoms and to see, what works, what doesn't, and maybe pursue an assessment if we decide there's enough there that it's warranted. And then there's always the third one. The third group is when, you're going through the check sheet of, which I will dive into in my course. You'll go through the check sheet with parents on different things that could be causing the behaviors or the challenges that we're seeing in the child. And then, you get to the neurodivergent line. Does neurodivergence run in your family? Often the first question is, what is neurodivergence? Which can be ADHD, autism, OCD. There's a whole bunch of things. I like to call it the spectrum smoothie when I'm working with parents and children, because it is unique to each individual. But in these conversations, often when I get to that line, if they already know what it means, or once I say it, there's sometimes this quiet exchange or a look if it's a couple. If it's just me and the parent, it's often just a moment of silence and you just feel the energy shift. It's often when I look up from my clipboard and I make eye contact and I stay quiet and I let the person speak when they're ready. For some reason, there's always a pause. And I don't know if it's because you're about to say something difficult or if it's the first time you're saying something out loud. But for some reason, there just seems to be a pause. And then it's followed by, I think I may have ADHD, or I think I may have autism. Sometimes they even say I was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, and that was kind of it. Nothing else was done. Or they say they think they may have it, they see themselves in their children, or whatever else. And then the conversation goes from there. So these are conversations I have quite often in my school counseling office, and now it has moved into some private work, being basically the idea that I work with people outside of the school system now. I work with parents, I work with lost generation people, and I work with high trauma ADHD. I also work with some elder, whichever word you want to say it, parents of some of my ADHDers who truly want to understand the disability in their adult child, but are just struggling with it, as it wasn't something that they grew up understanding or having compassion for. And often these symptoms of ADHD and autism were looked at as character flaws. And it can be difficult for a generation to make that switch. And so I have found myself basically working in all areas. And now with my neurodivergent brain, which has a million tabs open at once, this work has lit me up inside. It gives me variety. It gives me change. It continues to challenge me. And so I kind of like that it's all over the spectrum. The other thing that's coming is I haven't found a niche or, what they say you're supposed to do if you're trying to work online. And I think that might be because my main goal is not to earn money. I want to be upfront. If I could earn a little bit of an income to replace the income that I have lost due to my disability, due to my ADHD and what we have just determined is needed with the level of hyperactivity that I live in, it would be nice to make up that money, but it is not my main goal. My main goal is to share my knowledge, to continue to talk about ADHD, because many people in my life, they're kind of tired of hearing it. They went through the journey with me, but, for them, there's more to life than just ADHD. And so I also find this idea of building Mrs. C and me as a place for me to continue the conversation for others and for myself. So if you are here and you've been listening to me for a while, I'm excited to tell you that I'm diving in again. I'm changing things a little bit this time, and I've decided to just join the conversation, if you will. And so I'm going to just start talking. And so with that is going to be, unscripted. I do plan to have some outlines just so I don't go off on tangents too much. And I will provide transcriptions of the written word for those of you that read my stuff and prefer to read. So that's what's coming up. So stay tuned. The first course that will be available is Start Here, ADHD and Me. Your voice matters, and your light is needed. You've been listening to Mrs. C and Me. Join us next time for more tools and conversations on ADHD. You've got this, and your child does too. Now go out there and steer your own ship, fly your own plane, and direct your own show. You and the ones you love were always meant to be in the spotlight. I got you.